So what?
Nintendo 64 was a game console that was released in 1996 and known for its three-dimensional games. This console is what inspired others to make 3D games. Games such as Super Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, and Banjo-Kazooie is what gave most modern and past game developers inspiration. But not all games saw a light of day on the N64. Today's countdown, we will be discussing the 7 N64 games that were cancelled in production, pre-production, and almost finished titles. What is little to known about the games, the development was in progress sometime around 1999 and 2000. Originally, the game had nothing to do with the Star Fox series and was intended to be a standalone title. According to an interview with Shigeru Miyamoto, he had noticed striking similarities between the game's characters and those of Star Fox, and so the decision was made for the game to become part of Star Fox as a launch title for the Nintendo GameCube. Rare previously released many pieces of artwork, screenshots, trailers, and even soundtrack material before this decision was made, and many more of these can still be found today. What little detail about the plot, characters, and settings present show that the game was still quite similar to the later Star Fox adventures. The two main characters would have been Sabre, replaced by Fox, who was the son of a wizard named Randorn, and Crystal, who was Randorn's adoptive daughter and thus Sabre's adopted sister. They would have been accompanied by their respective sidekicks, Tricky for Sabre and Kaido for Crystal. The gameplay allowed for the two characters to be used in different locations and sections of the game. To switch between the two, the player would use a character known as the Swap Stone, which later became the Warp Stone. It also appeared that both the main characters had their own weapons. Crystal wielded a staff, while Sabre used a sword. One earlier versions of the characters and enemies were also seen in the previews, including General Scales, the Sharp Claws, the Galden, Grub Tubs, the Wounded Earthwalker, and Scales, Flying Sharpclaw Galleon. Early locations were also seen of Thornhall Hollow, Snarnhome Waste, Ice Mountain, Dark Ice Mines, and Grizola Palace. Super Mario 64 was a launch title for Nintendo 64 in 1996, which became an instant hit with audiences and critics alike, with selling a total of 11.89 million copies worldwide. So Miyamoto pitched an idea for a sequel called Super Mario 64 2, which was planned to be released on the N64 disk drive in 1999 and would have featured Mario's younger brother Luigi as a playable character. But since the N64 disk drive was a commercial failure in Japan, Super Mario 64 2 and Nintendo disk drive was scrapped and never saw the light of day. There are screenshots and beta footage out there, but have never been released to the public. Those believe that elements and mechanics of Super Mario 64 2 made it into Super Mario 64 DS and Super Mario Sunshine, which was confirmed to be the sequel to Super Mario 64. Metroid is a beloved Nintendo franchise that was released in 1986. After the success of Super Metroid on the Super Nintendo, fans were eagerly awaiting a sequel. It was expected to be released for Nintendo 64 after it being mentioned several times, but it never entered production. Producer Shigeru Miyamoto said this was because Nintendo couldn't come up with any concrete ideas. Metroid co-creator Yoshiro Sakamoto said he considered creating a new installment for the N64, but was not interested in being part of its development himself, mainly because of the console's controller. He said, "I just couldn't imagine how it could be used to move Samus around." Sakamoto also said Nintendo approached another company to make an N64 Metroid, but the offer was declined, supposedly because the developers thought they could not make a game that could equal Super Metroid standards. Later on, the game was scrapped and became a first-person shooter called Metroid Prime, which was a collaboration with Retro Studios and released on the GameCube in 2002. There was early beta image of the cancelled game, but Nintendo hasn't confirmed whether it's real or fake. Actually, it's fake. Dream is a rare game that began development between 1994 and 1995 after the release and success of Donkey Kong Country, which was released on the Super Nintendo in 1994. Originally going to be released on the Super Nintendo using the ACM pre-rendered graphics similar to the Donkey Kong Country series, but the project was moved to the Nintendo 64 due to Dream being too ambitious for the Super Nintendo. So it was moved to the Nintendo 64 disk drive to be redeveloped as a 3D RPG in a similar style to The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. It featured a unique 3D terrain system with environments created by stretching out the polygons. But due to the lack of power from the Nintendo 64, the game had many problems in development. Also, the protagonist Edison was criticized for being too generic and bland. Eventually, Dream was scrapped for unknown reasons. But later on, the concept was redeveloped as a game we all know and love, Banjo-Kazooie, which came out in 1998 on the N64. One more thing, Banjo the Bear, who was originally a side character in Project Dream, became the main protagonist of Banjo-Kazooie. Pocket Monsters RPG was an unreleased Nintendo 64 disk drive title. It was meant to be the first console RPG for Pokemon/Pocket Monsters franchise. Little information is known on the game, and no screenshots have been released. It was first mentioned in a June 1997 interview with Shigeru Miyamoto. Several months later, Miyamoto and Sukaku Ichihara both said that there were 3 64 disk drive titles in development. One of the other two being Hey You, Pikachu, which was released on the N64. In Nintendo Space World 1997, only earlier versions of Pokemon Snap and the Japanese version of Stadium were shown. Pocket Monsters RPG fell off the radar and no other information was announced. Junichi Masuda, a major developer for Game Freak, has stated that he doesn't believe Pokemon RPGs should be on the home consoles, which could be a possible reason for the cancellation. Other likely reasons are that Game Freak was developing Pokemon Gold and Silver during that period, or that the 64 disk drive ceased production shortly after its introduction. 2 Pokemon console RPGs, Colosseum and XD Gale of Darkness, were released for the GameCube, but they were not developed by Game Freak, unlike the 64 disk drive game. Mother is a turn-based Nintendo game series that was created by Shigesato Itoi. The first title in the series was called Mother, which was released in Japan in 1989 on the Famicom, aka Nintendo Entertainment System, which follows different standalone stories about encountering supernatural anomalies. The series was hugely popular in Japan, spawning 3 games and gaining a cult following, and within the United States after the release of Earthbound in 1995, which was called Mother 2 in Japan. While Mother's popularity was rising in Japan, Shigesato Itoi pitched an idea for a Mother 3, and development started in 1994, set to be released on the Super Famicom, aka Super Nintendo. There was inspiration from Super Mario 64. The Mother 3 development team moved to the N64 so they can go beyond the limits without any technical restrictions. But since the game was super advanced, halfway through production, Mother 3 was planned to be released for the N64 disk drive and was expected to be released in the US as Earthbound 64. But since the N64 disk drive was a flop, Mother 3 went into development hell in late August 2000. Production began again In 2003, it was re-released for the Game Boy Advance. In 2006, Japan only. But the only thing left of the scrapped Mother 64 was a demo with Space World and some beta footage which can be found on YouTube. Would you believe me that the alcoholic, money-hungry squirrel named Conker that you all know and love was once an innocent character? Well, since Diddy Kong Racing was finished and released, Rare announced a game would be focused on Conker the Squirrel that was set to be released around in 1997. But Diddy Kong Racing took its place instead. Conker's Quest / 12 Tales Conker was first revealed at E3 1997. But soon, 12 Tales was negatively criticized for being too cute and friendly, since Banjo-Kazooie was already like that. The game went through development hell due to the negative criticism. In 1999, Rare announced that they were going to completely redesign Conker by making it a more adult-oriented game, with the first picture being a twisted edit of the original Conker. A lot of people thought it was an April Fool's joke, but Rare confirmed it to be legit. Finally, on March 5th, 2001, Conker's Bad Fur Day at last was released. But this game was on a low profile and not many people knew of it because Nintendo had banned it from Nintendo Power and KB Toys did the same. The only magazine that advertised this game, strangely enough, was Playboy. The only remaining content of the cancelled 12 Tales Conker 64 was some 30-minute beta footage that was uploaded on YouTube on September 12, 2012. Rumor has it that 12 Tales on a test cartridge and a computer, but both went into obscurity. But maybe in some alternate universe, 12 Tales Conker was released. Before you go, I got an announcement. For now on certain videos, I will be giving shoutouts every other video that gets uploaded. So, here are today's shoutouts.
Have any ideas for a countdown? Comment below for ideas. Be sure to subscribe for more videos like this that will be uploaded every other week. Also, click the little bell button so you won't miss my videos when they are first uploaded. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you and have a fantastic day.